Okay, it is 11 o'clock, so let's get things underway. Welcome, Nikki.
Hi, everyone.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is our second in our first series of Evolve webinars. I am Warren Munson, founder of Evolve and Inspire. In terms of Evolve, what do we do? Well, we offer peer groups, so getting like-minded individuals around the table, sharing their issues and problems. We have our weekly Evolve to Succeed podcast. I'm on our 35th episode now, so if you haven't caught the podcast, please do go after this webinar to your device and go and download some of the podcasts. Some great entrepreneurial stories there and tips and hints about leadership and how you can evolve both personally and in business. We offer one-to-one coaching, constant stream, as many of you know that are members, the free membership of Evolve. You'll be getting your weekly newsletter. Go on evolvemembers.com. Constant stream of inspirational content and articles being loaded. So please, again, do go and have a look at the website. And if you're not a member of Evolve, please do join. And then when we are able, we do physical events. But obviously, at the moment, with the restrictions we're in, we are hosting a series of webinars. And as I say, this is our second webinar. Lucky to have with us today Nikki Webb, who's a digital marketing strategist. We've used over the years, worked with you, Nikki, on both with some mutual clients, but also engaged with you, and you've been a great help to us. So it's great to have you here today. But during the lockdown period, has transcended her own business and founded a new business called Ethically. And to do that, she undertook a survey with over 1,000 respondents on the consumer's desire to live more sustainably. So the whole purpose of this webinar that you're going to hear today is that Nikki's going to give us an insight into some of the results of that report, but also to give us some positive ideas on what we can do within our own businesses to be more ethical. So that's really it from me from an introduction. We are going to use the Q&A chat function. So as Nikki's speaking, if there's anything you want Nikki to explore in any more detail, or if there's any questions you'd like Nikki to answer, then please do type in the questions, and when we get to the end of Nikki's presentation, I'll chair and host the questions with Nikki. But for now, Nikki, I think it's, I need to make sure you've got, you've got control, and it's over to you.
Excellent. Right, thank you, Warren, for that introduction. And let me just click through and get to the starting point. So as Warren's already introduced, I'm going to be taking you through some research we conducted when I launched Ethically this year. So, and it really centered upon trying to understand the post-pandemic appetite really to live more sustainably. So I'm going to give that a little bit more context. So let's just see if it moves on. Oh, too many now. Right. Oh, there we go. So as Warren's already said, I'm a digital marketing strategist, and actually 2020 marked my 20th year in digital, which that shows that I've been around in the industry for quite some time. But I think one of the clearest things it gave me was a realization that I actually felt the next 20 years I wanted to do digital differently. And in such, that's what led me to create and form Ethically. So Ethically is it's a new concept of digital agency. So it isn't in essence just me, but I work with a crew of specialist freelancers and micro agencies who are all like-minded and on this mission to kind of save planet Earth. And in doing so, we offer the sort of full spectrum of digital services. But because it's a virtual agency, it's cloud-based, we're highly cost-effective, and actually in doing so, we help the planet and really strive to work with brands that do good. So, I mean, let's see if I can get this to work. Bear with me. Right, so the reason for the research. So obviously I launched Ethically during the pandemic, and I sat there and after the initial shock, and obviously not undermining how awful it's actually been for everyone across the globe, I sat there and I started to see actually there were some clear benefits that Mother Earth was experiencing, most notably the break in emissions from basically us humans not traveling us around so much. And being able to breathe again, the planet also saw nature bouncing back, and the quality of the environment really actually quite enjoyed COVID, if we can put it that way. But actually I wanted to see, did everyone else see it that way? Was there people interested in the fact that actually this is sort of such a monumental change in our behaviour and in our way of life, that actually can we use this as a catalyst for change? Which prompted me to create a survey. I basically used a platform called Pollfish. It comes highly recommended as a great way to do market research and do it quite quickly. And alongside that, it's a great way to get a substantial number of results. So we surveyed over 1,000 respondents as ethically to try and understand what their appetite was to live more sustainably. And the key bit for this session is actually what they then want from businesses and brands to help them achieve that. So not just a consumer-ended survey, it was more actually about what the business world needs to address to help them do that. Now, a lot of surveys along eco lines, I tend to find they tend to have a huge bias towards the people where it actually matters. And they've, got more money and they're slightly older. So actually one of the things I was really conscious of when I did this survey is I wanted to try and get a broad spread of people that really actually represented everyone from the low income to the high income to the younger to the older. So basically the demographics that I achieved through using the quotering system on Pollfish actually presented the results in what I would class a very mass market point of view. So I think, I really think the overarching outtake from this piece of research was there is a real desire and ambition to be more sustainable. And yes, the pandemic is actually placing that more into people's front of mind. And they really, really do want businesses to help. So I'm going to take you through some of the sort of stats that we uncovered. So I wasn't alone in spotting that there was actually positives from the pandemic. And this was really quite pleasing to me that it wasn't just me that was spotting it. 89% of people that we surveyed actually did agree that they felt the planet had benefited during this period from the lower emissions. And that really showed that people had observed it, from the young to the old. They actually were looking at, the things that you could look into to being positive around it. The other bit we uncovered was of this real revival in community and local spirit. So 81% of respondents felt that moving forward, they wanted to actually try and support the local businesses. And I think that's critical in the sense that whilst a lot of our activities moved online, actually there is a real afterthought that we want to remain local. We want our high streets open. We want our local shops there. So the opportunity for local businesses to leverage sustainability is actually a really good opportunity for future custom. Another part of the survey delved into just general attitudes to how much people wanted life to go back to what it was before. I think because it was such a shock and such an impact on everybody across the globe that over 50% of people we asked didn't actually want their life to simply slot back to the way before. There was a real appetite to change. And just simple things like gratitude for daily activities and things that you don't really value started to come back to the forefront. So with that extra gratitude, the consumers have this desire to be more sustainable. And the 76% of the respondents that we asked actually basically want brands to help them to do this. They don't want to be the consumer witch hunt, which is consumers are the only people that have to do things better for the environment. They really want businesses to lead the way. So, and there was another interesting stat that's not on the slide, that only 24% of people currently think that brands actually do this. So the sort of things that they were asking and wanting businesses to do was obviously, there's an obvious one: use plastic that is compostable or recyclable so we can combat the plastic problem. But that means they want to be buying things that haven't got this throwaway plastic on. 71% of respondents wanted businesses to actually do things better with their waste, to recycle effectively. And commercial waste is a major issue of how it's managed in this country. Also, that was interesting that actually consumers recognise that if they could purchase from brands that use renewable energy sources, that would help the planet. And also, if they purchase from brands who use sustainable sourcing in all their materials, you know, there was enough awareness that people actually could see that that would be beneficial to then the products or services that they then went on to purchase. The kind of one of the wow stats, and this was a really big one, was if you do become more sustainable as a business and a brand, that 87% of respondents said that they would be more loyal. Now, customer loyalty is something every business strives for. And actually, if it can be achieved by saving the planet at the same time, there's a real, you know, win-win equation that, you know, you can do things better for the environment, but also gain, you know, customer loyalty, which is, you know, the price can't be paid for that. And then I think the other interesting fact is that when asked, would they be prepared to pay more for products and services from brands that were sustainable, a staggering 72% agreed that their brand, they would be happy to pay for a price premium in the product if it was more sustainable. So those two stats alone really actually start to scream out to businesses that there is a value in the sustainability, both from a price point perspective and a customer loyalty. And interestingly, we went on to ask about actually if brands didn't change, what would you want to happen? One of the questions was actually, would you want government to tax these brands? And a staggering 80% of people felt that brands that didn't try to be more sustainable should be taxed. Another interesting fact is 71% felt that they were more likely to switch. So we're building this picture that of this data and this survey is actually showing that customers really are prepared to use their wallet to make the decisions to help the planet. And just remembering that this is a demographic from 18 to 75, from people on low income with no wages, all the way through to the retired. So that this isn't, you know, an eco warrior audience. This is the mass market telling us these great stats. What I think all that then leads to, and definitely what I've seen with the ethically work that I've been conducting over the last few months, is that there is a real opportunity for brands to leverage sustainability in their acquisition and marketing for that, with actually consumers agreeing that they are happy for brands to shout about it. They actually do want you to. So not only does it give you all of the sort of loyalty and price point benefits, but it actually gives you some really strong marketing opportunities. The interesting fact is that the results that I get with clients that have an ethical message are the costs and the response rates are probably half and doubled. So these messages are actually really resonating. So it provides you with a real marketing opportunity to develop and grow your brand. And I think the interesting thing is that if we don't change, people really do believe that we're going to struggle. Forest fires, animals losing their habitat, the extinction of animals. And people actually don't want this. They are scared. There is a massive fear around this change. So by tapping into fear, but turning it into positivity, again, is a natural approach to solving problems. So I think ultimately the research has shown that people want to live more sustainably, and 75% of everyone agreed that they wanted to do it more moving forward, and 88% want to embrace a sustainable lifestyle. And that comes from consuming less waste, lowering CO2 emissions, and actually using the planet's resources more wisely. So this is a consumer base that have really changed, and the pandemic has accelerated this. So what do the overall sort of takeout from that is, I think, as I've already said, it's a very, very simple equation. Oh, it's not really an Einstein moment, but I wish it was. It's actually very, very simple. If brands can become more sustainable, consumers will also become more sustainable, and the planet will benefit. in the chain going backwards, brands can charge more, brands can earn more loyalty, brands can market themselves better. And the whole combination definitely should actually start to make a sustainable future that is really our only option. So that really takes us through the research element. I'm going to put my hands in the air immediately. I'm not a sustainability consultant. That's not what I do. I'm a digital marketing strategist. That's where my skill set lies. But what I took myself on is a journey with Ethically through a process that any business can actually look to adopt and look to use as a structure and understand how I did it and how I achieved it, and actually understand it's not that difficult to make simple changes. So I'm going to take you through this sort of journey that I've been on, and it's a practical action plan, as I said. And I think one of the things I'm going to be really clear up front is anyone that I mention that I've used in this process, I'm not affiliated to in any way, shape or form. I just want to make that clear. So it's not a financial benefit for me to suggest these things. It's actually a journey that I think every business can start and look to benefit from. So I guess the place where I started, it was a really important place for me, was to work out my mission, vision and values. Having worked in the non-ethical sector for 20 years, I really actually wanted to make sure I got this absolutely bang on. What was I trying to achieve and how was I going to do it? And I came up with a really clear mission, which was to use my digital expertise to make a difference. So my strapline became making a digital difference. And my values were centered in about being authentic and real and conscious about everything I do. And I think a vision and evolving it is the way to start the process. I think if you don't get the buy-in from managers, leaders, stakeholders within your business that this is the journey that you want to progress on and these are the reason why, you won't get the success and the change running throughout the whole organization. And another thing when it comes to these things is keep it real. If you set your sights too high and become, don't give yourself a real mission that you can achieve, you'll then also have the fear that your consumers won't trust that message because it feels too ambitious. So it is about keeping it real, and it is about creating this trust that consumers believe that you are also placing the planet as high up as profits on your agenda. And I think people really buy into that concept. And for me, it's not about not making profit. That's a real key thing. It is actually just balancing the economics of environment and profit, because profit is what drives the world. But it's at some point, and I'm doing it now, it's not about making all the profit and not considering the environment. It should be consider the environment and make the right revenues from what you do. Now this one I think is, if I can take anything away from today for, as a really simple and easy thing to do, it is about switching to the green energy route. Actually, in the UK, we have a fabulous suite of renewable energy suppliers that are 100% renewable electricity and offset their gas where gas is required. And it is a really easy process to do. Now, obviously, I know some of you will be in landlorded buildings, but landlords themselves can, actually make savings by switching to renewable sources. So we used, I used Bulb, and they offer a business package, which is 100% renewable electricity and the neutral gas. They get great ratings on Trustpilot. I found the switchover to be one of the most, from a digital perspective, digitally pleasing. Everything was done online. It was incredibly simple. Everything was managed really, really well. And I think the communication level from that brand is superb of transferring you over. And it is really easy to switch. It's not complicated. It is just a case of contacting them, and Bulb managed the whole transfer across for you. And I pretty much saved, I'd say 30% on my bills as I work from home. It's for the home as well as my home office. And I was really pleased at how this was just a no-brainer to do. Work with flexibility. So I've put this in because actually I think the pandemic has thrown businesses into a quandary as to whether they need office space or not. You know, the ability to work from home and the adaptation of meetings and digital things, exactly what we're doing now, has been actually a really easy transition. It would have been something, if you'd said without the pandemic, no one would have wanted to do. But actually, I know Alex Graves, who's coming on in August to talk about remote working. You know, they've done some latest research around how much people have really enjoyed it, and the free time and not having to commute, and the benefits from that have been huge, not only on the person, but also on the planet. You know, I personally love seeing the empty roads, the no rush hour. I was having to do a lot of journeys to feed the vulnerables in my family, and yeah, getting to New Milton in 20 minutes was quite impressive. So, you know, these things can actually become permanent changes, or at least flexible changes that you can think about. You know, does everyone need to be in the office? Can people work from home? Is there a better way of, you know, having a lower cost overhead? So one of the things I think comes massively to the forefront is co-working spaces that are flexible, where you can buy desks at, you know, for certain periods of time, you know, a day, a week, a month, and you get access to meeting rooms. Is that the bit that keeps the business sort of face to face, and actually the rest of the time can people work from home? And just on that, I know Evolve's looking at developing a fabulous new co-working space in their building. So that's if that is on the agenda, that's a definite opportunity for you to think about. But I think it's recognizing that we've made this change. We don't have to go back to the way things were. And I know there'll probably be loads of issues with commercial building and the contracts that are around them. But I think actually everyone's got to help each other and adjust here to try and make the most of this flexible achievements that we've succeeded in. Sorry, it's just not moving forward. So this is probably the one that I think sometimes scares people. Sometimes it causes great debate. But going carbon neutral is something that ethically is just achieved. There is an argument. So if I run the debate for myself with you guys here, it's a lot of people think going carbon neutral and paying to offset your carbon that you do produce is a way to pay to pollute. It's actually an easy way out to say, oh, I am doing things better for the environment. My argument against that is if every business did actually become carbon neutral, the offset level that would be being pumped into replanting forests, renewable energy around the globe, all of that has to be seen as that's worth paying for if we can't offset the carbon that you produce in what you do. So it's not actually as complicated as it sounds. So what I use this company called CTX Global after doing an awful lot of research into the carbon neutral certification. And I can't lie, I actually was slightly disappointed by the industry. I'm not going to name businesses, but the price ranges for this ranged from what I paid, which I felt was a reasonable sum of sub £1,000 for the report and the neutralisation of my business, all the way up to being quoted circa £20,000. So it's a myriad of costings, and I feel there's an element that this industry needs to smarten up a bit. But CTX were absolutely bang on the money as a provider to get you certified with the PAS 2060, which is the standard in the UK. The other bit about these guys is they created the first carbon exchange, which is a concept that I absolutely love. So it's basically a stock market for carbon offset projects. So you can get farmers in Kenya selling their products direct to people that are offsetting carbon. You know, I've invested into a renewable wind farm in India to really support the growth of the local economy from lower costs in electricity and renewable sources. And because they offer this exchange, I've uncovered in this market that the unethical bits about it is a lot of carbon neutral companies buy these projects and then mark them up. And that's where the additional cost seems to be. So these guys don't have any markups on the offset. So you are literally buying direct from the carbon projects that are happening across the globe. And they've got a real raft of things that you can invest in. But going more back to the report and how you do it, it is actually not that complicated. It's looking at your energy bills, it's looking at your mileage, it's looking at the number of staff that you have, you go through a set number of processes, and it's just about collating data and mapping that data into what that then translates into carbon. And I was initially like, oh my God, this is gonna be a massive job, but actually, albeit I am a one-man band, but the concept of actually locating all the information and collating it was actually not that difficult to do. For me, it's a great status to have. You enter almost into a club of other businesses. And I found this carbon neutral status has also enabled me to, have a great marketing message out there. And so at the moment, I've pushed all the research out. So my next strategy is to talk all about my carbon project that I'm investing in India, as a marketing focus. So outside of the sort of the energy and the carbon, other areas that, as I've already said, is commercial waste, and what commercial businesses generate in waste is actually an awful lot each year, and it's not as well managed as municipal waste. Things aren't being recycled, what you throw out. So it's a case of you've got to actually look at thinking more about how you can take control of your own waste. So one of the solutions that I was looking to utilise here ethically is the Terracycle solution. So they offer some free schemes, and they also offer some what I quite like is zero waste boxes. Very much that you can take these boxes and have them in your office. They can be for crisp packets, they can be for the single-use plastic that you create as part of a team. But what Terracycle do is they basically recycle the unrecyclable. Everything that you can imagine they take, and they do actually use it. They create furniture, they create all different types of new plastic entities that have a much longer life cycle than the plastic that it's typically being driven from. The other thing is that they do have this hard to recycle approach, which if you get in contact with them, they can offer businesses of all sizes, everything from hazardous waste to really waste that you would have thought there's no option but for it to go to landfill. And they work really, really hard to actually get businesses to think about how they can make their waste better. And I think, some of the things like coffee capsules, I mean, the amount of coffee capsules that go into landfill every year is criminal. So, and, everything from batteries and crisp packets, it's kind of, if we can take control of our waste better and think about employing a better solution, your customers are going to value you higher for taking that action. So, now this one probably is where I really am pushing myself out of my comfort zone. But as you know, the survey highlighted people really want the plastics to change. Now, I, as a digital agency, offer a service. I'm not a product-based business. But what I do know is from my research out there that there are government organisations, WRAP being the main one, that is really supporting businesses today to go on a kind of very tight mission. So WRAP have created the UK Plastic Pack, which is by 2025 to have the majority of plastics being compostable, recyclable, or biodegradable within many of the big food chains, and where we see the single-use plastic being paramount. They have a great load of resources, but they also have a membership where you can join and you can learn and understand how you can change your manufacturing processes if you do produce stuff to actually use these new plastics that are actually far more sustainable. And anything that you can do to move away from plastic, I think is important. I've also noticed, and it's just based on the journey I've been on, the massive rise in sustainable packaging and new industries being born out of packaging that has become sustainable. So using paper and card, and there's a whole raft of them now available. And I think, you know, if you're looking at things differently, it is, if you can look as deep as all the plastic that you're producing and plastic that you need, and looking at switching, I mean, that is really admirable and really worthwhile to what, you know, a sustainable future looks like. Because ultimately, I think consumers can't stop using single-use plastic. I've tried, and I can't. There's no way I can get around buying some things I have to have. And I've switched up so many items in my household to be non-plastic based, but I still can't get to 100%. And consumers want to not have single-use plastic rubbish. So it's a case of, it has to start somewhere. Oh, that's the same slide. Let's move on. I'm trying to think which one that one. That's it. So then I think the last and one of the extra bits that I took it upon myself to build into my model was the fact that on top of all these elements, I really wanted to have a sort of, you know, work with us, and we do something. We make a pledge with all the revenue that your project will bring in, and we'll pledge a 1% of that revenue to a cause. And obviously, the more clients that you can get, the higher that becomes. There, you know, can be charities, this can be any number of great causes out there that are doing good, and it can be close to your heart, and it can be close to the new mission that your business has. So for me, I didn't choose with my carbon offsetting to plant trees. That is obviously an easy route for carbon offsetting. So I chose that my pledge was going to be around planting trees. So I selected the Trillion Trees campaign. So that's made up of the WWF, BirdLife, and the name escapes me, the third one. But ultimately, at a top level, they're not only just planting trees, but they are actually working towards the government and the change required in policies, etc., to actually protect our forests better. I do the planting part of their campaign and plant trees every month for projects, which equates to about 1% of the revenue that I bring in. And as Ethically Glows, I'm hoping to increase that. But as part of that, there is another club that says if you do this, you can join our club. So 1% for the Planet is a global institution that kind of joins up businesses that are donating 1%. It's not an additional 1%. It is the 1% that is your pledge. What this club does, though, is it's world recognised. You get an additional badge to say you are this 1%. You're donated 1% for as part of your business model. It can enter you into this member group, that opportunity to network and get to know people. And I think the overarching findings that I've had from starting Ethically is that once you're in this world and you're doing it differently, and you are honed in on the planet and the ethical side of business, it's a really friendly club. There's no issues. I mean, the number of people I've spoken to over the last 3 months that, you know, I probably wouldn't have spoken to if I was my old guys as Digital Rocks, because they probably wouldn't have paid attention to me. But the other interesting element that I found as well is you actually end up speaking to people that have such linked values, and the conversations become really, really easy. And there's this community spirit that wants sustainable businesses to really take over the world, and I'm fully behind that. So as part of it, you almost can reap benefits from business contacts as well as consumer contacts, because you can all be part of this community. So far, I'm finding it successful in both in introductions and transferring it into business. So The last and most obvious point then is to, once you've created all these elements, and I would say they're pillars, you might not achieve all of them. You know, you might just switch to green energy and be powered by green energy. That is a message that you can market on. You might go carbon neutral. It's a fabulous badge to have on your advertising and marketing. You might have a great pledge, and you know, you leverage your pledge and who you're pledging to in your message. But it is a real opportunity to actually switch up and signpost the same sustainability. It might need a new website, it might need some more imagery, but ultimately the value that positioning will add to your branding will help deliver those loyalty and price premiums, and you know, that our research has shown that the consumers will be delivering to you. So it's a real leverage in communications. And some of you will be thinking that, is this just for B2C brands? Well, no, actually, I think businesses will want to buy from businesses that are sustainable, and businesses that traditionally haven't had to have an environmental message are starting to come through. So I've made connections with insurance companies, with solicitors, with financial advisors, who are all having or thinking about a sustainable position. You know, from a finance point of view, it's sustainable investments. You're, you know, invested into the right things. That's a great thing. But also, if your business itself is sustainable, then the two things join up really, really nicely. So I think ultimately there is a simple distilled list that you guys can follow, and I, you know, even if I can inspire you to think about 2 or 3 things on that list over the next 12 months, and for me, my mission is actually trying to encourage and inspire businesses to become this ethical and sustainable factor, so that the planet will benefit. And obviously, I very much enjoy marketing you when you are the sustainable, ethical businesses that I know you all can be. So that's really the end of everything. So we've got some time for Q&A, which I think Warren will come.
I will. Thank you. Really good. And really good and really insightful. Thank you, Nikki. I mean, some of those stats are quite, you know, really interesting, aren't they? When sort of 87% of an audience agree that they'd be more loyal to a sustainable business. That's an incredible stat, really. And that 72% of them would be prepared to pay more. I mean, you know, it's incredible to see and hear. So yeah, thank you for that, and thank you for the practical and sustainable kind of actions that, you know, you've distilled down, and some signposting. So we do have one question so far. I have one myself actually, but Marie Smith has said, I love the idea of switching to green energy. Actually has PV and thermo, so free hot water and electricity when the sun does shine, which has done quite a bit this year, thankfully. You know, Bulb or other green providers are compatible and offer that kind of complementary service, so that you can mix generating your own using a sort of ethical provider. So sorry, Warren, I slightly missed the chain of the question is, do you know, so Marie's got a situation where she's got, she uses thermo and PV, obviously PV on the roof, generates her own kind of hot water when the sun, and electricity when the sun does shine. Obviously, do you know if Bulb and other green providers, so energy suppliers, are compatible with that kind of complementary service of being able to mix generating your own, providing? As I say, the selection of Bulb was not as an affiliation, so I don't have a huge knowledge about what their capabilities are. All I know is they were very, very easy to deal with as a business. And I would think it would have no harm in contacting them directly to find out. I mean, I think we do have to have these, combined solutions for energy, where warehouses are producing their own, but might need more when required. So, or businesses. So, I definitely know that it's worth definitely getting in contact with them. Brilliant, thank you. If anybody's got any more questions, please do post them on there. I've got a question on actually calculating. I was quite interested when you talked about it. Were you calculating and collating the information to actually work out what your kind of carbon offset needed was? Did CTX Global help you with that, or did you find a spreadsheet somewhere? How did you actually go about calculating what the actual carbon offset needed is, Nikki?
Yeah, so that was great. CTX did all the calculation. So all I had to supply were a log of the electricity bills. So obviously, because I've got a home office, I put the whole house through, so they were quite easy to find. I had to look at all the business expenditure. So in essence, I actually just gave CTX my entire business expense sheet, and they worked out off the back of that the travel and the any business costs that were relevant that needed to be offset. And so, yeah, really what it was almost like an information dump to those guys, and then they actually figured it all out for me. So some of the, I think one of the interesting things I found out is if an activity isn't generating, I think it's 1 ton of carbon, it kind of goes under the radar. So if you want to be a bit bold like me, what I did was I double offset. So I knew what my carbon offset was, and then I bought double the offset just because I wanted to be double net zero. But you'd be surprised when you're talking offsets can be bought from £5 to £10 per ton of carbon. It's not actually a massive expenditure to offset what you've got. So it is a case of collating information, and then that's what you pay for with the report, is that they disseminate it. The other bit that they're really good at is consulting you on actually what you can do to reduce your carbon within your business. So I had to sign up to a pledge, mine was really actually quite easy because the entire world had transferred onto Zoom. My aim is to minimize face-to-face meetings as much as possible. So I do have clients in London and various places which historically I've traveled to, and actually as part of the fact that we've transferred through to, Zoom as a standard, it will be about actually saying to clients, I'm going to do this digitally because it's better for the environment. And that's part of my reduction strategy, which also comes out from the initial report. And that's what I really liked. It's like it gave you a visual of what you were impacting the world by, but also gave you opportunities to think about how you could reduce that. So,
okay, that's brilliant. So, a relatively straightforward process then.
I was daunted originally when I thought, well, it's probably going to take me hours and hours, but actually it was I just created a folder on my shared drive, dumped everything into that, and James at CTX was fabulous. He disseminated that into all the different elements of the report. I mean, that's what they're there for, the specialist knowledge as to what information goes where and what that then means for the carbon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nikki. Comment here, thank you, Leslie. Leslie Keats, just saying, hi, just to mention that Low Carbon Dorset are offering funding grants for businesses to help improve efficiency credentials. We're about to get our boiler upgraded, which is going to be 40% funded. And we've got, actually, it's a great point, Leslie. So lowcarbondorset.org.uk. We've got some clients, particularly in kind of engineering kind of sectors and other sort of manufacturing sectors, that have actually obtained some of those grants and switched some of their, their boilers and that to more carbon efficient, low carbon kind of kit, and got significant grants for it. So Leslie, a good reminder there. So I think that is the end of all of the questions. You're happy, aren't you, Nikki, to share the full results of your survey, and we'll be sending a link to that out. Ursula from Evolve will be sending that out in due course.
Do feel completely free to use any of the stats within the research. My ambition for it is to just spread far and wide. And if that can be a goal of everyone taking notice of it and using that information, then fill your boots.
Cool. So we've got some of the chats just coming through. Can we use the research? This is from Nikki. I work with some clients that are focusing on sustainability, and I create content for them. It'd be great to use your data and credit you where I can if possible. Also, any advice on getting partners, stakeholders to buy into this way of thinking? Are there any return on investment stats available?
I think obviously this research is a really good opportunity to get buy-in with those, the stats that Warren was talking about, the 87% more loyal and the 72% price premium. I think that is in its own a figure that suggests that it's a way to go forward. I think the other area that's really shown through and is in the actual ethical finance markets, but businesses that are ethical have actually gone through the pandemic a lot better than I think it's called responsible is the key, and they with from sort of investment point of view, that stock and that market has held up better than the overall market. And I think there's almost a plea to heartstrings that if we actually don't change, there is no planet, no future. And I'm not like an evangelist, but actually it's a case of, if businesses don't look at this, consumers can't look at this. Consumers can't change the world without businesses on board. And I think given the marketing benefits and the benefits of that then translate through to the environment, and it's not that complicated, it is about using these stats and putting the right pressure on to the stakeholders to get involved.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nikki. Mr. Tansey, Paul Tansey from Intergage says, really eye-opening and useful. As you know, I was already a fan, but it was great to hear you present your work. And very similar feedback from Becky and Laura and again from Marie, thanking us for the questions. So, been a great session, Nikki, really insightful. I've actually got some actions to take away for both Evolve and Inspire from my perspective. Yes, everybody that's still on the call, don't forget that Evolve is there to help you grow and succeed, both personally and from a business perspective, offering the peer groups, the podcast, the coaching one-to-one, the insightful content and articles, webinars and events. But really keen just to engage with the local business community, see what you need from us, ability to have a chat with you about what Evolve does offer. So anybody that is on the call, happy, and it would be great to get you involved. If you're not already, I know in London you are a member of Evolve, go to evolvemembers.com and sign up. But also happy personally to have a coffee and a chat with you all and just to find out a bit more about what you're up to, what's happening in your world, but also give you a better insight into Evolve and all that's going on at Evolve. So without further ado, I think that brings the end to the webinar. Nikki, as I say, you've been brilliant. Thank you for sharing. Really insightful. And I know clearly from the comments that we've got that those that are listening to the webinar feel the same way. So thank you, everybody. Hope everybody has a good day and take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.